So hi everyone, today we will see another demo, another task which is come under the AWS Cloud Quest. So in this demo this is the demo on networking concepts. So in this we have to review some network configurations and then fix the issues. So for this demo AWS provide us you this whole setup to do your networking concept, to do your networking fix, right? So you have to fix the network between the web server to the outside world through the internet, and with the web server you can only access the database server. So you have to fix that in the AWS Cloud Quest task. And the whole setup, this AWS Cloud VPC and this public subnet and private subnet, the AWS will provide that in their sample, in their demo lab. So for this video I'm going to create the whole setup with the creation of VPC and public subnet and private subnet, then we will do the part where we have to perform the basic AWS cloud quest. So basically in this demo is the this demo is basically the root part of it. So we are not in the AWS Cloud Quest. They provide the whole setup already in the lab, but in this demo we are going to see how we can set up your own lab, and then we will learn the networking concepts in AWS. So for that, this is the architecture which we are following. So we are creating a VPC in AWS Cloud. VPC is nothing but a virtual private cloud, and we are providing some IP address CIDR to it. So this is the 10.0.0.0, and this 16 is the subnet mask. So basically if this 10.0, the first two will be the masking of this IP address, and this 0 and 0 will be available for use in this VPC if any server is there. So next, in this VPC we will create two public subnet, the public subnet and the private subnet, and we will define its CIDR with 10.0.1.0 and with subnet mask of 24 in the public subnet, and for the private one it's 2.0 for private subnet. Then we will establish a web server. We will create an in-situ instance in public subnet, and we will start the HTTPD server, so that port 80 we will start the HTTP server in this. And in the private subnet we will establish a database server, and in this demo we are using a MariaDB database in our EC2 instance. And then this whole setup will complete, and then we will learn how we can configure our networks through internet, and how we will get connected to the web server, and how we can get connected to the database server only from this web server. So we will learn how if we want to try this database server accessible from any other website from outside this VPC or outside this public subnet itself, so it will be not accessible. So this database server is only accessible from this public subnet IP range. So we will see in this demo. So for understanding purpose, let's take an example. Let's say our database server is up and running. So if we want to connect to this data server, we are setting it in such a manner that if we create any EC2 instance other than this public subnet, inside let's create another. If we create another subnet and provide another CIDR IP address to it, then it will not able to connect to this database server. Or if any other any other IP address from outside the world is trying to connect to this database server, it will not able to connect. But when we trying through this EC2 instance or any EC2 instance which we created inside this public subnet, it will be able to connect to this database server. So in this demo we will see how these things works. So let's get started. So at first we have to create this whole setup in our AWS account. So just log into your AWS account. You will be landed into the console page. So we are doing this demo in the North Virginia region, US East 1. So let's go to and create a VPC inside our AWS cloud. Go to the EC2 dashboard, VPC dashboard. Here you can say create VPC. Just click on it. So earlier AWS has upgraded its VPC console to configuration. You can easily configure VPC with its subnets and then its route table, and some networking connections are also there. If you want to create it in all these things at once, it will create it for you, but for now we are going with the basics. So just create only the VPC, and then we will create subnet and route tables and a networking, how we can connect to the network. We will create in one by one. So let's go to and click on VPC only. Just type a VPC name. So I'm just writing it as demo VPC, and provide a IPv4 CIDR block. So we have to provide a IPv4 CIDR block. So in this let's just enter our CIDR block. So let's just this. So this is the IP address of our systems, and this is the subnet masks which we are applying to it. So basically 16 is there. So these two IP addresses of any server inside this VPC will be fixed, and only these two will be changes, though this one and this one. So you can this is the due to the subnet mask of 16, because all these are in the 8 bits, you can say 8 bits. So this is 8 bit, this is 8 bit, you will be having 16 bit. So this is the subnet mask for that. And you can also write the subnet masks in this way. You can see 255 you can see this in the Linux version of, if you are using any Linux, then in this way you can also see that something like that. So this is the IPv4 CIDR. So we are setting it at 10.0.0.0/16. We are not using any IPv4 v6, and leave the tenancy as default, and just click on create VPC. So this will add a tag with name demo VPC, which we are creating right here. Just create VPC. So after that you will see that our VPC is created. So let's check its details. So you can see that it created a main route table for itself and main network ACL for it. So these route tables are very much handy for configurations of networking purposes, so through which you can configure the networks outside the internet to connect outside the world using to internet. In this route table we can also create another route table and attach to this VPC. So we will see in later. So for now, if you create any VPC, it will automatically create a main route table for it and main network ACL. So we are disabling the hostname for now, and DNS resolution is enabled for now. This is the owner ID, you can see. So let's go and create a route table for our public subnet. So let's just filter it out with VPC. CF67. So yeah, this is the default route table. You can see this is the main route table of our demo VPC, which we had created right now. So let's just create another route table with name public routing. public route table and attach it to the demo VPC. Create that route table. So you can see this is the public route table. So we are creating this public route table to connect it to the internet gateway, so that we are accessible to the network, accessible to the internet. So just create that public route table and just edit the route to the internet gateway. So here you can see there is no internet gateway right now, so we have to create a internet gateway first. So just click on VPC and go to the internet gateway. So you can see one internet gateway is created. So let me just delete it. This is the internet gateway which we are earlier using. So just delete this internet gateway and I am deleting this internet gateway just to showcase you how we can create a new internet gateway and attach to the VPC. And this is the internet gateway which is attached to our default VPC. So keep it as default. Just create an internet gateway. So let me just rename as demo internet gateway and create an internet gateway. So it will create an internet gateway, you can see that, and now its state is in detached. So to get it used to another route tables, you have to attach it to the VPC, any VPC. So there is no any VPC ID for right now, so we have to just attach it to a VPC. So just select this internet gateway and click on actions button. You can see that here attached to VPC option. Just select the available VPCs, which is demo VPC, and attach it to that. You can also see that AWS command line interface, how you can do that. So just copy that command and paste in on the command line, so you can easily attach that VPC, attach that internet gateway to the VPC. Just click on it. So you can see now, if we go to the internet gateway, you will be see that its state is changing to attached, and with the VPC ID, this one demo VPC which we are created. So now let's go to the route table which we are creating for the public routing table, and just select it and go to its routes and edit the route, so that this routing table will get access the internet gateway and get access to the internet. So now you can see the internet gateway is available. Just select it, just provide the port with outside any internet. So just click on save changes. So these are the steps which we are following for the initial setups, but when you are doing the lab in the AWS Cloud Quest, you don't have to do this. I will inform you from where you have to do the demo inside the AWS Cloud Quest lab. So I will divide the video in that much part, and then I will do that. So these are the setups video, which these are the setup kind of information which we are doing right now. So we created a public route table, which is not the main one. You can see this is not the main one, but this is the public route table in which we are routing to the local and the other internet also. Let's just create two subnets in our VPC. Let me just, so right now there are only default VPC subnets there are available, 6 subnets which are of the default VPC. So we have to create two subnets for the private one and the public one. So just click on create subnet, and you have to choose a VPC in which you want to create your subnet. So and for the subnet one, let's just type as public subnet, you can choose the availability zone, but if you don't choose, it will be automatically chosen. let's just choose it as D, and this is the CIDR block in which we are creating, because this is the CIDR block of the VPC. So you have to choose the IPv4 subnet CIDR block. So let's just set it to 10.0.1.0/24. So here we are using 24 subnet mask, so that these three IP address will not change for the servers inside this subnet, and only this. So you can see there is only 256 IP present for this subnet, in which some IPs are fixed for the special use case. So you have only 250 around IPs for the servers inside this subnet. So just, this is the public subnet. Click on add new subnet, and just create another private subnet right here. Write it name as private. Choose the availability zone same as UST1D, and this is the VPC CIDR block, and let the CIDR block of our subnet IPv4 private is 10.0.2 and 0, and these three IP address will not change as we use the 24H subnet mask. So if we change our subnet, you will see our IP addresses will increase. So our number of servers inside this subnet will increase. So we will using 24, approx 250 IPs will be available, and just click on create subnet. So it will create two subnet inside our demo VPC. So these are the two subnets. Let me just click on public subnet and show its route table. So you can see that these are the details of subnet of public logs. This is the route table. So you can select, we are selecting this route table. This is the default one, which is created while creating the VPC. So let me just edit this route table association and just add the new route table which we are creating for the public one. I think my network will be slow down. Let me just refresh it. Yeah. So here you can see this is the route table now associated to it, but we will associate it to the public route table in which our internet gateway is available. So just click on save. So for now our public subnet has the route table which we are creating in public route table, and we are associating internet gateway so that it will be accessible from internet outside world, you can say. And if you choose the VPC as, if you choose the private VPC, you will be able to see that this is the default one, in which this is only destinated to the local target, so it will be not accessible from outside the world. So let me just, so we are done with the setup of VPCs and all the environment. Let's just create two instances, one for web server and one for our database. So for that we have to go to the EC2 console, but before going to that, here in the VPC as well, you can see that here we have network ACLs and security groups. So we know that in EC2 instance we have to use the security group for the networking purposes. So just click on security group here and create two security groups for our web server and database server. So this you can see that if we filter it out according to the VPC. So this is my demo VPC. In this we have a default security group. So in every region there is a default security group in every VPC. The default one is generated automatically. So let me just create two security groups here. So this is my web server security group, which allows SSH for the initial setup of our database and HTTP. So in this we have to allowed some rules. Right now I'm writing in description allowed some rules, and choose the VPC as this demo VPC. So we are just for the outbound rule this is good. For the inbound rules we are just allow the SSH port for the connection of the EC2 instances from the EC2 instance connect anywhere, and you can also provide the CIDR range custom 10 point. So this should be this one, because we are accessible our EC2 instance connect from our internet which is outside this VPC. So just select that. Okay, so next we have to if you we want to add some another ports, but for now we are just happy with this SSH port. Just delete that and just click the create security groups. It will create a security group WebSG with the inbound rule of SSH port. And let me just create another security group with the same configuration for the database one. We will see why I am creating this for the purposes, for two different purposes with the same rule. After in the later part we will see why we will use the two different security groups. Just type this one, and this is the database security groups in the demo VPC. Click on create security. So our configurations of initial configuration of the VPC dashboard will be VPC inside the VPC is completed. Now let's go to the EC2 console. Open it in a new tab and just create two instances. Let me just launch the instance. This is the web server. I'm using Linux 23 AMI, latest one, with T2 micro free tier, and I'm not using any key pair value. Proceed without any key pair, and just in the network setting, click on edit, choose the demo VPC. So this is the web server which we are running in the public subnet. So just choose the public and click on enable the auto assign public IP. So it will automatically assign the public IP address so that we can easily connect through the EC2 instance connect, and just select the existing security group which we are created. So web security group, and we are using 8 GB of volume, GP3, and just click on launch instance. So you will see that this will be launched successfully. Click on view all instance, and this is in the pending states. Until then, just create another instance for the database server. Type db server with the same Amazon AMI inside it, and inside it we will launch MariaDB. You will see how we can set up that. Just proceed without any key pair value. In the network setting, just click on edit, choose the demo VPC, choose the private subnet, and enable the auto assign public IP. This auto assign public IP I'm doing because we have to connect to that uh, database server. We have to connect to this EC2 instance, connect this EC2 instance also to set up our web server, to set up our DB server. You can also do that using the user data script, but for now I'm just showing you all the things with the by just doing the things, not with the code. So we are just enabling the public IP and just selecting the security group as database security group and just click on launch instance. So we launched 2 instance, you can see that here. One is web server and one is database server. So our web server is up and running. Just click on it and click on connect. You will be landed onto that page. Just click on connect here. So we are connecting to our web server. Let us just establish the connection. Until then, just refresh it and let the database server to be up and running. So here we can see we are inside our web server which we are created, and you can see that its private IP address is 10.0.1, which is in the public subnet. You can see it from here, and this is the public IP address which is it automatically assign it. Let me just change the my root account, change it to the root account, and let me just update few settings here. Yum update. So and install the HTTPD server in it. Just click on yes. You will be able to so our HTTP server is downloaded. Let me just check whether it is enabled or not. Status PD. So this is in the inactive state, you can see right here. So let me just set up the HTTP one HTML page in this HTTP server, and then we will enable it so that our HTTP server is up and running, and we will activate it, start our HTTP server basically. So just go to the var www as HTML folder. Here you can see nothing is there, so just create a file here with index.html. this is the index.html file which our HTTP server is redirected to. So just add a file with web server setup complete. Just save it. If you are not able to use the VI editor, so I'm just walking through that. Just type the file name with VI and hit enter. Then you can see that this is the, you can say, menu part where all the things will happen. Right now it shows the file name. If you press I for the insert, you will see, press I, it will go to the insert mode, and then you can you type anything. And for saving that option, you have to just first press the escape. After pressing the escape, you will see the insert is gone, and you will perform different operations here. So for write and quitting, like we have to write this file and update this file or save this file, just type colon and W for write and Q for quit, enter. So this file is inserted into our index.html and HTML. You can just check it with the cat command. So this web server is setup complete. Web server setup completes. Now let me just start this server, HTTPD server. So our HTTP server is started. So you can call on this. So you can check the status from this command. You can see this is in the active state. So HTTP server is running on the port number 80. You can see listening on port number 80. Just curl to that port using HTTP with the IP address, or you can just type here localhost because we are checking locally. So you can see our web server is up and running, and if we stop it, it will be not be accessible because it failed to connect to the localhost host. So just start this web server. You will be able to see that. But if you are trying to access it from outside the world using this its public IP address and port 80, it will not able to connect, because so this is the task which we have to do in the AWS Cloud Quest. So we are doing it after the whole setup will complete. So our web server is up and running. You can see that using status command, using status. So our web server is up and running. So this is the part we have done. Let me just go to the database server and connect to it. So this is the first requirement for the database server, which is completed. And now we have to set the database server. So you can see as we launch we will not able to connect to our database server, and it throws some error. So this is because we don't have access to the outside world, or you can say that you don't have the access to the internet gateway in the private subnet. You can see that here. This is the database server in the private subnet, and if we go to the private subnet part, you will see this is the private. You will see it's not routing to the internet gateway or the outside world with internet. So that's why this error will occur. So for the setup of this environment, let me just connect it to the internet gateway using the route table which we have created earlier, this one, and click on save. So after you change the route table of your private subnet to the internet gateway, now if you click on refresh it, it will be able to connect to the EC2 instance which we are using for database server. So look, we can connect to our database instance. Now on that instance we are launching our database server. So for that we have to install MariaDB in it. So whenever you using any Amazon Linux server, Amazon AMI, some upgradation is already happening behind the scene. So if you don't able to find out any software or any packages, just type the initials or just type the MariaDB, which the software you want to install, and hit enter with star. So it will find all the name with MariaDB in between it. I'm just typing it as, so yum install MariaDB. It will find Okay, so let me just move it to the root account, and if you don't want to move it to the root account, just type sudo in the starting. Sudo basically switch user to the root account, so it basically provides the administrator access for some command to be run to execute it. So you can see here, these are the packages which starts with MariaDB. So we have MariaDB connector, MariaDB backup. So we are interested in MariaDB server utils. So just copy that, right click on it and copy it. And we are not required, no, we are not interested in installing all these things, so just type no. And let me just switch back to the root user and just type yum install the only package which we want, MariaDB server util. So these are the packages, and these are the dependencies of these packages, and these are the weak sub dependency, you can say. Just click on enter, so it will install the MariaDB package server utils, and which requires these dependencies. So you can see in the earlier one we have 3 MB data to be installed, but now we require only 117. So that's why this is the best way to find the packages inside the EC2 instance. You can try it out, so for any other use case, for any other packages also. So I'm just typing in yes and installing the MariaDB server on it. So we are still in the setup part of our AWS Cloud Quest solution. We are not so these are the setups the AWS provide you in their lab, but for the demo perspective, I will do all this setup inside my AWS account. So we are downloaded the MariaDB. Let me just clear the screen. Just search for the MariaDB. So this command is available, but our server is not up and running. So just go to the systemctl command using systemctl status MariaDB. You can say it's inactive right now. So let me turn it on. So our MariaDB server is now starting. You can see the status right here. You can see this is the MariaDB server up and running. So MariaDB server is basically up and running on through port 3306. So for now, let's just go to our MariaDB database. You can see we are inside our MariaDB. So if we run through this command MariaDB, so it will log in as a root user inside it. As a root user, you will be login as a root user. Let me just run some commands. So how much databases are there? Bases. These are the databases which are available in root user. Let me just create a new database named test. So a new database is created. You can see test. Now let's use that test. So some tables inside it. So right now there is no tables, you can see. Let me just create a new table. Create using the create table command. create table uh, let me just name as student table. Create table student with some name as varchar 20 and some age as integer. So now if you show the tables, you will be having one table with a student name. So let me just add some data to it, because if you show its data, there is no data in it. Select star from student. So there is nothing inside the table, nothing inside the student table. So just insert some data into it. Insert into student name and age. Name as Ayush, age as 23. Hit enter. So this is not the correct syntax, so we have to insert in this manner. So we have to write values here. So we are inserting the values inside the name and age. So just type enter, hit enter, and now you will be able to see name and age of first student. Let me just enter few more here. Let me add another. Let's just see the table. So you are having this data you will having this table in your database, which is test database in your MariaDB server. So we created this test database in our MariaDB database. So let's fix this error. Let me just try this code. Let me just try create user IU @ localhost, then identified by the password. It is still throwing the error. So you have an error to SQL syntax. So this is the basically the syntax error. Why I'm getting this error? Let me just type this. Create user IU @ this is the local host identified by password, identified by some password. Let me just say ABC 123 and hit enter. Okay, so now it's run. So we created this user. So let me just check using the select statement how much user with IU is, whether it is created inside our database or not. Select host and then user. So this is host. This host is nothing but this user has this capability to connect through this host. So this is the local host, basically this environment, and you in this environment you will be able to connect with this, login with this user IU and with this password ABC @ 123. So just type host and user from mysql inside it. MySQL user table is created from that which we are getting from MySQL user, where user equals to IU. So we can see that IU user is added into our localhost. Let me just give this user database access to the database test database which we have created, and not the whole database access. We are just giving the database access of the name test database. So just type grant all privileges on the database name test, and inside all the test, inside this test database, all the tables and all the views it has access, all the things inside the database basically the IU user can access. And on test database to the user, which user, IU @localhost. Just hit enter. So this will grant all the privileges to the test databases. To make it permanent, plus privileges, make it permanent privileges. So let's just try our user IU to just connect to that database using the localhost, using this system itself, using this localhost. So just exit from this root user and just type mariadb user IU and then provide the password. You have to enter the password here, and you will be able to log into your MariaDB account. So if you run the current user command, select current user, it will be IU localhost. So earlier it will be root. So in this way you can switch to your user, and if you able to show the databases here, so databases, you will be only to see the test and information schema. So another database of MySQL is not available, so two more databases are also present in our MariaDB database. So we have only the access of test and information schema. So if we type select, let me just choose the test database, use test, just use, and then select star from our student table which we had created earlier. So our data is available. So in this way we are creating a user inside the database, inside the MariaDB database. So let me just exit from that and create IU user for the so that IU user to be the accessible from our subnet, our public subnets basically. Just go to that command of creation and just change the localhost to the subnet IP 0.1. Use the ampersand here, use the percentage symbol, get all the fields right in between. So just I'm accessing this, I'm applying this IP address. Basically this is the host we are providing, and we are creating IO user to be accessible from that also. Just use that update user. Okay, so you have to write the create user command. Create. So now if you check using the select host URL, you will be able to see that IO user have the host which is accessible from localhost and this one. So we all set. Let me just grant privileges to that also. Just go to the ru@10.0.1. Percentage and hit enter and plus the privilege. So it will be changing, it will save all the changes accordingly. Next, so we all set with the configuration part which the AWS provided you in their lab in the AWS Cloud Quest. So you have to just use that lab. So after setting up this database server, just go to the subnet of private go to the private subnet routing table and just edit this route table to main route table, because in public route table we have internet gateway, so it will be accessible to for the outside world, but for we creating this private subnet so that it will not accessible from outside world. Save that. So you will see that now if you will refresh it, it will throw some error because we are disabling this private subnet part from here. So let me just edit the route table of our public route table which we are created earlier, and let me remove the route of internet gateway. So because this is the thing which we have to do in the networking concept part which AWS Cloud Quest demands, so we will remove this. So you don't have to worry, the internet gateway is provided by the is pre-created and attached with the PPC and provided to you inside that demo of AWS lab demo. So we are all set with the configuration part, so you can close this window. So from here you will be landing to the AWS lab demo part. From that from where you will have to apply some networking concepts to get the things done. So you have to just go to the AWS lab domain, open the EC2 instances in this manner, and you have go to the running instances. There are 2 running instances already present in the lab demo, with one as web server and one as DB server. You just have to select the web server, go to the web server and copy the public IP address and just open it at a new tab. So as we are disabling the internet gateway, so it will not be accessible, and we are not also accessible from outside world, so that we have to fix this so that it will be accessible to outside world. So just solve this issue, return to the EC2 console page and just go to the subnet part. Click on public subnet because our web server is inside the public subnet, so a public subnet page will open. Here you have to click on public subnet, and here in the go to the route table part and edit the route table to attach a internet gateway to it. So just go to the route table, just go to the in the subnet part you will see the route tables. So just click on that route table, you will be landed into that route table. Just select that route table and go to the routes section. Here you will have to edit the route table. So in the demo part you will see a NAT gateway is provided. So we are not having that NAT gateway. NAT gateway basically attach the private subnet to the outside world internet, you can say. So now we have to remove that NAT gateway if any NAT gateway is present there, and then add the internet gateway to our public routing table. So just add that internet gateway with accessible to all the ports. So after doing that, just click on to the save changes and just see that our target should be NAT internet gateway, which is the public routing table. So this is our we updated our public routing table, which is being used by our EC2 instance. So after updating that routing table, just go to the EC2 instance and go to the security options and see the security groups. Inside security group you don't have any inbound rules present in the AWS demo, but as we are configuring the whole setup with own, so we are enabling the SSH server. If you want to delete it, you can delete it for now and just add the rule for HTTP server, which is port 80. Add the rule for port number 80 and it will be accessible from anywhere. So because this web server should be available to anywhere, so just choose anywhere and out IPv4 just save this rule. After save this rule, you can go to the web server instance and again copy that IPv4 address and just paste it into the web browser in another tab, and here you can see that our web server setup is complete, and you will see some animated things running on Java code is pop up in the demo lab. For this lab I am just setting the a notification like this that the web server setup is complete and it is up and running and it is accessible from anywhere. So if you want to access from any other device, it will be accessible. So we have done the first part. Now in the second part you have to get the access of the database server through web server. So to do that, just go to the database server thing, go to the security groups of the database server and go to the inbound rule of the security groups of database server. Here we have the SSH server, but we don't want this SSH server right now because we already did the setup things. So if you want to delete it, you can delete it and add another rule for the TCP port of 3306, which should be configured on the subnet CIDR of public subnet basically. So 10.0.1.024. so this should be accessible, this port range should be open for this IP range only, so that our public subnet, the instance in our public subnet, easily accessible our database server. So just change and save the rules and then go to the EC2 instances choose the web server and just connect. Click on connect, click on connect. So it will throw some error because we disabling the port 2020 port SSH port for this as well. So you have to first go to its security group of web server and add the security group for this. So you don't have to do this in your lab. I am doing this for the demo purpose so that you will get the idea, because we don't have that animated things up and running. So in this page, if the connection will be established from EC2 of from the web server to database server, and there is some animation happens on the HTTP page, which is code provided by AWS. But for us to show that how these things works, how we can connect through the EC2 instance, we are just using the SSH port to be enabled, and we are just using Amazon EC2 instance connect. So we are we up the web server and we are accessing the database server on our web server. So just check whether your MariaDB is installed or not in this system. So you have to install the MariaDB command, MariaDB environment basically. So there is no MariaDB no system. Just type yum install MariaDB. For the selection purpose, I am just using this. Okay, so just run with sudo and copy this server utils package. You have to install this only. Just type sudo su so that you don't have to write again and again sudo command. Just yum install, then paste the package, install it. So our MariaDB is installed in this instance. So we are not enabling this server on this instance as well. So what we want, that we are able to connect a MariaDB instance from another host which is up and running on IP address. Just use the hostname IP address of the private IP address of database server and just paste it. I pasted the wrong one, I guess. Yeah, so correct, make it correct. And using the user use and the password as abc@123, just access the test database. So after hitting this command, you will see that this web server instance will get the access of our this port, get the access of our database port. So in this way you can connect to your EC2 instance. But for the AWS demo part, you can use select select from student table which we are created. So our data is populated. But for the AWS demo, what you should do, you should go to the database server security groups and just set this part, and you will be able to see the whole thing up and running, and you will get the full marks after you have done this. So this is the whole demo in which we learned the whole VPC concept, how we can create a VPC, how we can create private subnet, public subnet, and then using internet gateway, how we can access the internet to any instance. We created a web server and database server, and thus we established the connection between them. So hope you guys liked this video. See you in the another one. Thank you.